Okay, ready? So we are on Lamed Test on base 39b, about 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines down from the top. I am not the host. I can't help you unmute. I'm not the host. I guess I'll have to send things by chat and hopefully I'll catch it if you have a question. Okay. So we have Hahi Savsa. There's this grandmother. Tahavila Tlas Banta. She had 3 daughters. Ishtabai, she was kidnapped. Ihi herself Vachada Brata. So the grandmother and one of the daughters are kidnapped, and there are 2 daughters who are not kidnapped. However, the Idach Tartivan, to the 2 remaining daughters, Shriva Chada Minai, one of them passed away. Shavka Yunuka, and she left an orphan behind. So there's a daughter, an orphan locally, and the grandmother and the daughter are kidnapped. And the grandmother has some property. So Amar Abai says, Heichi Navid, what are we supposed to do? Look, minu l'nichse bidada achta. Maybe we should give the property to the daughter, because we have the principle we just said yesterday. Marid and Karv the nichse shavoy. You can send a relative in the property of someone who's kidnapped. So let the daughter take over as a custodian of the property. And if the grandmother comes back, everything's great. She takes like a sharecropper. Everything would be great. However, Dilma Shriva Savta, maybe the grandmother passed away, and we also said yesterday, Ain Marid and carve the next katan. We don't sell a relative into the property of a katan. May end up claiming that it was theirs all along. So you can't let this. So if the grandmother is alive, it's fine to let the daughter take over. If the grandmother passed away, then we can't let the daughter take over because it might belong. Because half of it's going to belong, or a third of it's going to belong to the grandson, and you can't let her take over the property that belongs to the grandson. Says, what about the opposite? Give the property, at least a portion of the property, to the grandson. Maybe the grandmother did not pass away. And we also said yesterday that you don't let a child take over the property someone has been kidnapped. So if the grandmother is not alive, it makes sense to give the grandson half. But if the grandmother is alive, you can't give him anything because you can't let the child be a caretaker for someone out of town because he's not responsible enough to take care of it properly. So Emor Ba'abai says, Hilka, therefore, Halga, half of it Yavin and Lachta, half of it give to the daughter. Either way you look at it. If the grandmother is alive, so you can let the daughter take over everything. Grandmother's not alive, then so the third. You should give her a third of it. So she a third of it is hers. Now the middle third, there's now 3 doubts in the middle third. So 1/3 for sure, 1/3 for sure you can let the daughter have. Now what about the middle third? 1/3 of it you can let the daughter have, 1/3 you can't let the daughter have. Now what about the middle third? The middle third has 3 options. Either the middle third belongs to either the grandmother and the daughter both passed away, in which case half of it belongs to the remaining daughter, or the grandmother and the daughter are both still, or the grandmother is still alive and the daughter is not, in which case it all belongs to the grandmother, or the grandmother is alive and the daughter is also, the grandmother passed away but the daughter is alive, then 1/3 belongs to the local daughter, 1/3 belongs to a daughter who's away, and 1/3 belongs to the child. So at the very least, 1/3 for sure, but 1/3 for sure you can let the daughter have, and even the middle half, the worst case scenario, half of that middle third, half of that middle third, you can let the one half, let the remaining daughter have. The only part, and there's a possibility that both of them died, and half it belongs to the kid. You can't give the daughter more than half, but up to half you can give because there's no way that the grandson owns more than half because the daughter is still alive. So even if they both passed away, then the one daughter who's here, which can get a half. And if the grandmother's alive, then either way she'd get even more than half. Now, if the grandmother passed away, the daughter is alive, then she could get up to 2/3. But at the very least, she can get half of it as a custodian. So we for sure let half of it go to the daughter who's alive, who's local. The other half, we set up a custodian, lenuka, for the child, on the child's behalf, because the same idea, basically the child could potentially take it. However, he's a child, so he can't. So we find some kind of a poto, we find an administrator, custodian, to take it on the child's behalf. Rava says, once we're anyway setting up an apotropist, we're setting up an administrator on half of the property. We set up an administrator for the other half, meaning since it's all in doubt anyway, we don't have anything clear about anything. So once we're, the whole field is in some form of doubt. So once we're setting up an apotropist, a custodian for part of it, just anything that's in part of the doubt, we'll set up an apotropist for that. Okay, then it says, Lasof, at the beginning of the line, Lasof, at the end of the day, or later, meaning later on, not necessarily the end, but later on, Shamas Shivas after we heard that the grandmother passed away. So now we only have two doubts. Either the daughter is alive, the daughter who's been kidnapped is alive, in which case the local daughter gets a third, the daughter who's been kidnapped gets a third, and the grandson gets 1/3. So the share that belongs, right. Or the daughter passed away as well, and the daughter who's local gets half, and the grandson gets half. So not much has changed. The only difference is we now know at least what to do with 2/3. 2/3 we know what to do with. The middle third is the same as it was. So what do we do? Tilsa Omar Abai says Tilsa Yavin Achta. 1/3 you straight out give to the daughter. Tilsa Yavin Linuka. 1/3 you give to the child. It's for sure his. But Edech Tilsa, the middle third. Maybe the daughter is kidnapped is alive. Maybe she's not. So Yavin and Danka give a sixth, meaning half of the remaining third, which is a sixth. The Ach to give it half of that to the daughter as an administrator. I mean, either the sister's alive, she could be administrator the entire middle third, or the sister passed away, in case she inherits half of that third. Therefore, at the very least, give her a sixth of that she can administer. And if the sister comes back, she'll take as a sharecropper. Since it never comes back, she'll just get to keep it. The edict Danka, the other sixth. We set up an administrator for the child, because maybe it belongs to the child, and maybe it belongs to the daughter who's not here, and therefore you can't let a child take over it. So you set up an apotropist, you set up an administrator for that on behalf of the child. Rava says, once we're getting into trouble, we're going to the length of setting up an apotropist, an administrator on the 1/6, we're going to set up on the other 6. So the entire middle third that's in doubt, we set up an administrator, custodian. The other 2/3, there's no doubt. Now, a child in general, you usually set up an administrator. So the third that belongs to the child, maybe we'll set up an administrator also. But this middle third, we can just set up an administrator. Since part of it we can't do anything else with, so just the whole thing we'll set up an administrator. That's the first story for the day. Next story. Mari bar Isak. And his son named Mari bar Isak. Asle Achem Bechazai. He's had a brother show up randomly from Bechazai. His father had gone to live in Bechazai at some point, and it was a long time ago, and he had a child then. And now a random stranger comes and says, I'm the child who was born in Bechazai. He has, Mari bar Isak has not seen this child in years. And and doesn't know anything about him. He knows that he has a brother, but he doesn't know who this person is. Amarle, publicly, give me a share of the father's estate. Amarle says, Lo Yidanalach, I don't recognize you. Who says you're actually my brother? Asla came made a Rav Chisda. They went in front of Rav Chisda. Amarle said to him, Shaper Kamalach. It's good that he's telling you. Shnei, the pasuk says, Vayakar Yosef esachav, v'hem lo yikiru. Yosef recognized his brother, so they didn't recognize him. Why not? Milan teaches us when he left them, he had no beard. By the time when he saw them next, now when he saw them when they came down to Egypt, he had a beard, so they didn't recognize him. So similarly here, the brother's face he's gotten older. Mari bar Isak does not recognize his brother. He doesn't have to say, he's believed to say, I don't know what this guy is. I don't know. Normally we say, I don't know is very weak. The situation where you're not expected to know, I don't know is strong. So he's allowed to say, I don't know, and that doesn't weaken his position at all. So Amalei, he said to him, Zil Isis Hai Dachu, come bring witnesses that you're his brother. Amalei, he said, so the brother said, Islisad, I have witnesses, but Dachalim, they're scared of Mario by Isaac, they don't want to testify. Digavra Alimahu, he's a strong person, maybe he's a member of the mafia, but he's the kind of person you don't want to get in trouble by testifying again. Omer Leila Didei, so he said to Mario by Isaac, Zil Ant, you should go. I said, how to bring witnesses to love. It's not your brother. Amalei said to him, back to him, no, Dinach, the law is like this, you're getting it wrong. What's it wants to take away from me? It's right now, it's in my possession. Take away from me. He has to bring proof. Why are you making me bring proof? Amalei said, this is the way I'm going to judge you and all other strong people like you. Meaning, if you people who don't listen to court properly, people who are too strong and take law into their own hands and things like that, that I'm with the burden of report from you. I'm not going to make anything easy for you, even though technically you're right. I should just give it to you. But since you mess around and don't do what you're supposed to do, so I'm going to assume that he gets the share. And they said to him, so I bring witnesses. I'm going to bring witnesses. They're not going to testify they're going to lie. They're going to lie on my behalf. So what's the point of making me bring in witnesses? I'm a stronger person. People are scared of me. They're going to testify. They're going to just lie on my behalf. So what's the point? Why should I bother bringing them in? I'm going to say, Tarti lo avdi. They're not going to do two. It's one thing to not talk, to stay home and not say anything. That they're willing to do. But once they come to Beis Din, they're not going to lie. They're not going to lie just because they're scared of you. So for the end of the day. So I went back. So for the end of the day, Asur Sahadi, we're 4 lines up from the bottom now. Asur Sahadi v'dahu, the witnesses did come and testify that this person is his brother. So Amarle, he gets half the property. Amarle says, Palugli Nami, you have these orchards, different kinds, various types of orchards you planted on the father's estate. I should get a share. I should get 50% of those orchards too, not just of the property that existed when the father passed away. I should get a share of everything you planted. Amarle, so the Dayan said, Rav Chisda said, Shaper Kamalach, he's saying good. What he's saying makes a lot of sense. That's the halacha. The Mishnah says, the father left adult children and children. And the adult children invested and improved their property. And they improved the total estate, and the younger siblings, even though they didn't do any work, they get a 50% share in it. And similar Rabbah said, now Rashi takes issue with this and says it can't be Chen Amar Rabbah, because Rabbah comes later and maybe it's Rav. He says that we should maybe just leave this whole line out. And the argument says Rabbah says it goes to the middle. So I'm not clear. Rashi says not clear what this is adding. So he would just take it out, or maybe say is Rav. He was earlier at least, and we bring a proof. And Rav also said Rav was earlier said it also, but to say Rav said doesn't make sense. Rashi says. So Amalei Abaye said back, "Mi dami." Is this case similar to that case? Hasim gedolim gavekitanim yadi. There, the adult children knew about the younger children and planted the field, knowing that if the fact they haven't divided it means the profits go to the younger children. Kamma, and they forgive it. They say we're willing to do the work on behalf of the general estate, and everyone's going to share. Hacha, but in the case of Mario Isaac, did he know he had a brother Lichel that he's going to forgive it? That's what Abaye says. And the Gemara doesn't respond to what Abaye says. Sounds like he wasn't impressed with this language. Maybe it's not based on forgiving. Maybe, in fact, he did know he had a brother somewhere. That might be enough. Not clear why Abaye is not taken so seriously, but we don't go any further with it. However, we have a similar opinion to Abaye. Igalgal Mil, so the matter rolled around, and it came in front of Rami. Amalu, he said to him, we said even more, not like Rav Chisda, said even stronger statement that he should get, the Rami Barisik should get the share. Said in our case by Shavoy, but Nixa Shavoy, someone's kidnapped, Shamlan like Aris. You give them, when he gives it back, he gives it to a sharecropper. Hashta, in that case, in our case, you're not going to give him his, meaning in that case, he knew that he had a relative and he fixed it up and he invested money in it. Still, we give him like a sharecropper, even though it's for sure not his. In this case, he thought it was his for sure. Why are you not giving it to him? He should for sure get, at least as a sharecropper, he should get a share in the property of the second half. Same if he has to give back the other half with the trees he planted, but should at least get paid as a worker for those trees he planted in his brother's field. So Ahadrua, they brought it back to Rav Chisda that Rav argued on him. Now Rava happens to be Rav Chisda's son-in-law. Just in case, for context, Rava is Rav Chisda's son-in-law. So they're bringing back to Rav Chisda that Rava's son-in-law argued on him. Amr Lahu, he said to me, Dami, are these cases similar? Hasim, in that case, the relative, our case that we've been talking about, B'shus Nachis, he had permission to go into the property. Hacha, in our case, in the case right here, of Mar Bar Yisak and went with the brother, Lo B'shus Nachis, he did not have permission to go in. But and furthermore, Katan, who is still a child. So he didn't have permission, he didn't go to Beis Din and ask permission. And had he gone to Beis Din, they wouldn't have let him because the brother is not yet bar mitzvah. The Amari and Karvan next to Katan, and you don't let a relative go into the property of a child. So you can't. So he's not allowed to go in. So he should not get the money as a sharecropper. Any work he did was illegal. On the other half, and therefore the other brother just takes 100% of that second half. Ajula Kamma to Rabbi Ami. They brought him back in front of Rabbi Ami. So why do you say Rava? I don't know why I said Rava. It's Rabbi Ami, not Rava at all. I don't know why I said Rava here. It's Rabbi Ami. Brought back in front of Rabbi Ami. Amalahu. Lo sima kamai the katan. They didn't tell me the whole case. Like, I got the case wrong. They told me the case. They didn't tell me he was a child. So what I said that he should get a share, at least a share as a sharecropper, that's the brother's above bar mitzvah. But now that you're telling the brother's below bar mitzvah, for sure he doesn't get a share of anything. Mar Bar Yisak gets so Mar Bar Yisak gets half, the other brother gets half. Mar Bar Yisak does not get any kind of share in the second half. Okay, next Mishnah. Unless there's any questions.
Could you just sort of summarize?
Yes. Okay, just the second story or the first story also?
The last story.
Okay, so Mar Bar Yisak had a brother show up out of nowhere and says, give me half. So first a discussion, what kind of proof is sufficient? Does need to actually prove that he's a brother, just as the burden going Mar Bar Yisak because he's a strong-arm person. And then we found proper proof. So he got proper proof. So for sure he gets half the property. Question is, Mar Bar Yisak invested money and increased the value of that other half of the property.
Okay.
So does he get it as it was at the time of the death of the father, or he also gets a 50% share of the profit of the increase, or something less than 50% share? So he says he gets a full 50% share because it's his property. It was joint property. The fact that Mar Bar Yisak worked on it just increased the value of the estate, but it does not. There's no reason why he should get paid extra. So Rabbi Ami said, I don't understand. In the case of someone who's captured without the relative who went, and the captured person comes back, then we give the relative a share. Why don't you do that here? The answer is because he's a katan. He's a child, and you don't let a relative take over the property of a child. No. Therefore, Mar Bar Yisak would never have gotten permission to do what he did. In fact, he went and did it. He does not get his share of the profit as a sharecropper. He gets to keep his half, and the other half, with all the work Mar Bar Yisak put into it, goes entirely to the brother. Okay, next Mishnah. Hamafkid peros etzel chavero. If someone deposits fruits with his friend, when it's time to return it back, he calculates the amount of loss that has occurred to the fruits from animals eating, etc., and gives back a smaller amount. Like I was going to ask, why not just give back what he deposited? We'll discuss that in the Gemara. Why can't it? Why not? Meaning, why can't he just physically say, "This is what you deposited. I'm giving that back to you"? Why can't he do that? So we'll discuss in the Gemara why he can't. But just physically give it back. Why there's a question of doubt here? How much to give back? Now, how much is Ronos? What percentage do we assume is gone? When it comes to wheat or rice, 9 half kavs, or 4.5 kav for a kur. Now a kur is 30 saw, and a saw is 100, and a saw is 6 kav. There's 180 kav in a saw, which means 4.5 is 1/40th, if I did the math correctly. 4.5 times 40 is 100. Yeah, so it's a 40th. So assume 2.5% has gotten lost. Let's orin ladolkin for sorim, which is barley, and dolkin is, I guess, millet. Tisha kav l'kor, 9 kav for kor, which is 1/20th. You assume that a higher percentage of them gets lost, gets ruined, gets eaten by animals. So you remove the value by 1/20th.
These removals and the deduction, they're just arbitrary numbers.
Their assumption of how much the animals would have eaten over the top. We're going to see, but surely it means per year per quantity.
They're not measuring it; they're just kind of saying
this is the expected
typical,
amount. This is a typical amount, right?
Okay.
This is typical amount to get eaten by mice and things.
Okay.
The kusmin uzerfishtan for spelt and flaxseed. Shlosh on the core, 3 saw for every core, which is 1/10. So assume 1/10 of it got lost every year. Yeah, Kamma kolofi amina, kolofi azman. Everything is according to the quantity and according to the time. You know, the more you put in, the more you take off. The longer it's been sitting there, the more you take off. Amar Rabbi Yochanan ben Nur. Rabbi Yochanan says, what difference does it make to the right mice how much you have? They eat the same amount whether you have a lot or a little. The mouse eat, the mice didn't eat the whole thing. So if you have twice as if the mice eat 20% of a small amount, so double the amount, they should only eat 10%. Whatever it is, when you put more, they're going to eat less. What's going on? So we'll see in the Gemara how they answer that. We'll see in the Gemara. Ella, rather, the Mishnah will say something. The question, the Mishnah is, the Gemara will say, yeah. Ella, you only take off this amount for the first core, then that's the total amount they'll eat. Whatever we said, these numbers we said before, 40, the 20, the 10th, that's how much they take of the first core. If anything beyond the core, they're not going to eat any more than that. More fishes off. Rabbi Yehudah says, if you left a lot behind, you deposit a lot. If you do not take anything off for losses, then it's serious because they actually inflate. Wheat over time, if you deposit wheat in harvest time, pick it up in the rainy season, the wheat absorbs the moisture from the air and expands. Therefore, if you measure it not by weight but by quantity, so the quantity doesn't go down at all because it expands. The expansion when you have a large amount, the expansion is greater than the amount that has gotten eaten by animals. Now you want to ask, or is for rice? It said rice you only take off 1/40th. It says Tuvachas said rice gets eaten very quickly. It goes very quickly. Amar Rabba bar Barchana, Amar Rabbi Yochanan ba'oretz kol shana. We're talking about non-whole grain rice. We're talking about whatever, I don't know the word for regular, just plain rice, not whole grain rice. Whole grain rice, yeah, they eat a lot. When you take off the outer shell, that doesn't get ruined as quickly. So it's peeled rice. And Gemara says similar. Gimel saw in the core. When it comes to spelt and for flaxseed, the time at 3 soft per core, that's a very high percentage, 1/10. Rabbi Yochanan says, Rabbi Yehudah says, Zer fish and Megivol. You're talking about flaxseed still on the stalk. So then it dries up a lot and it gets ruined pretty quickly. Sean, that's what we talked about. Tanam Hachibrais says that the last 2 statements he said it right. The kusman Zer fish done for spelt and flaxseed, Begivol in the stalk. The orange ain't kolef and rice that has not been peeled, shoshar the core. Then you say 1/10. So for flaxseed that's still in the stalk, and for rice that's not been peeled, it's 1/10. Our Mishnah says rice is 1/40th. That's because the rice has been peeled. See that clearly that we have 2 different amounts. For rice is not peeled, it's 1/10. So in fact, it must be our Mishnah to make rice that's peeled. That's why it says a 40th. It says a kolofium.
1/40th is less than 1. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
if the rice has not been peeled, they eat 1/10 of what you have. But once the rice has been peeled, then they only get a 40th. I guess because what's there was tastier. The actual grain itself, not just the shell. So they'll eat. They don't have to eat as much.
They like the shells.
Again, they don't like the shells. And I'm assuming that they're just eating and not getting satisfied by the shell to end up eating more.
Oh.
Have the shell there, it's just fluff. There's not much content to it. So they end up eating a lot more. Well, it says the kolofi, everything's going to the amount, everything is going to the time. Tana, this is the amount you give for each core, this is the amount you give for each year. So you have 1 core for 1 year, this is what you give. 5 cores for 4 years, you have 20 times this amount. Now it's not quite because it compounds negatively, it compounds. Yeah. As it is more there, that each year you have a little bit less, they eat less. Amar Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Rabbi Yochanan who says the mice, what difference does it make to the mice? So you have a little bit or a lot, they eat the same amount. Tanya say, how do they respond to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri? Amar Lola Rabbi Yochanan. They said back to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Harbi overdose man, a lot gets lost. Hamispazim man, a lot of it gets scattered. The more you have, the more waste there is. And the Gemara Yushalmi actually says, right, mice are wicked. When they see there's a lot of food, they invite their friends. If they see there's only a little bit of food, they get nervous. They don't want to let anyone else in, so they keep it all to themselves. But the more food there is, the more they tell the other mice. They say, "Hey, come eat this, a nice free meal. You're going to share." So the more you have, the more the mice are going to end up eating. They bring their friends in, and they eat a lot more. The Bryce says, when is this Mishnah true? When I mix when you deposit your fruits with me, and I go and mix them with my own stockpile of the same species. But I left him a corner. And if I left you a corner, you put your things there. You tell him, take what's there. It's yours. Meaning, what we're talking about is when you don't know exactly how much there is. You got it mixed up and you put it together in your storehouse. So you mix it with the grain. You can't tell how much is there, how much is yours. You know, you measured how much they put in. There's no way to tell how much you deserve because you got eaten. It may not get eaten. It got mixed with yours, and you can't tell now that it's gotten eaten how much is whose. And then when I ask me, what difference to make you mix it with your fruits? Looks at the day, Kamma and look at his and figure the percentage. If I had 20 and he had 10, so then whatever is left, he's going to take a third. You just measure what's left and give him a third. We assume the same percentage of mine loss is his loss. Mm-hmm. So then why are you? Why do you need to make a calculation? Why do you need to make an estimate and make a proper calculation? When it says mistabik mayhem, no, he's been eating from the whole time, so the percentage is skewed. But Lexi coming in mistabik, so see how much you did. You can still do the calculation, so it'll be a little harder to calculate how much you ate and how much is left, and you can do the calculation. When it says the lo yada kami mistabik, he does not know how much he took from them. Therefore, you can't calculate the percentage. The only calculation you can do is based on the default, how much the mice normally eat, but you can't do a direct calculation at all. Okay, we're now at the 2 dots right before the lines get wide on Mem Amud Aleph. You got the spot?
I'm on different.
Okay.
Yeah. Still hear that in spirit.
Okay.
Oh.
Fine. Okay, then Rabbi Yehudah says, if it's a larger quantity, then you don't take anything else. You don't take anything off because it expands from the humidity. When I ask Kamma mina meruba, how much is in large measure? What's he talking about? When you have 10 kur, that's enough that expands. Tani nami hachi, we have a price the same thing. Kamina meruba, how much is a large measurement? Asar kur, you have 10 kur, then it expands and you don't take anything off. Tani Tani Kameda Rav Nachman, Tani said in front of Rav Nachman. But when is it true? You take you use this calculation. Madad lo b'toch gorno. When you measured from the threshing floor, exlo b'toch gorno, you give him back from your threshing floor. But mad b'toch lo b'toch gorno, you measure from the threshing floor. V'echzi lo b'toch beiso, you give it back from the house. And you don't give anything. You don't take anything off. And because it's bigger. Now, apparently, there are different measures with the same name. There's a field measure and a house measure. The house measures are larger. So the measure of the house measure is smaller. Hold on. Right. The house measure is smaller.
Oh.
House measure is smaller, so you give the same number of scoops and getting less back. So you don't take anything off because you're using smaller scoops. That's what we're assuming it means now. He says, asking talking about fools, the Yav B'Kaila Rava, they're given a big measure of a chocolate B'Kaila, they take back in a smaller cup. Makes no sense. That someone would never do that. So that doesn't explain why you take something off, why you would not have to take it off from the house. Dilma perhaps the most of going Kamma. He said in the time of the threshing. This is what it's trying to say. But when is it true? When you measure in the time of the threshing, Fix lo b'mosagar, and you give it back in time of the threshing. But mar lo b'mosagar, but if you measure it in time of the threshing, fix lo b'mosagar, and you give it back in the time of the rain. Any you don't take anything off because they get inflated. They get like the humidity makes them get larger, and therefore when you give it by quantity, you don't take anything off. Amarle Rav Papa Labai, Rav Papa says Labai. If so, if you tell me the wheat expands, why doesn't a jug of wheat explode? If you tell me wheat gets bigger in the rainy season, the jug should explode when you fill it up. Havuv to happen once, upakakata, just all of a sudden out of nowhere, poof, it smashed. The wheat got too big and smashed the jug. So you could be, you're right. It should explode sometimes. Or one you could say, because of the pressure on the walls. I mean, you have them, it's crammed in, there's no room for it to expand. So even though there's moisture there, but moisture just has no room to get in, so therefore they don't expand if they're in a jug. Okay, next Mishnah. Yotzilo shtus liyayin. Take off a sixth for wine. If you're guarding someone's wine, again, you mix it with your fruits, giving back, you take off 1/6. Yehudah says, Chomesh, you take off a fifth. Now it comes to oil, Yotzilo shlosha lug in shemen l'me'el, you take off three lug of oil per every 100, meaning 3%. L'me'el lug for 100 lug. So for 100. Lug u'meksa, why 1.5? Shema, because of the sediment, the olive oil over time it settles out. And so you're giving back pure olive oil than what you were deposited. If you take 1.5% off because of that's a sediment, if you give back more, you'd end up giving him your oil. So you're only giving back 98.5 for that. The other 1.5 you take off. Lugamaksabola. And 1.5 of absorption, that the vessel itself absorbs the oil, and therefore you lose another 1.5% to absorption, so you only get back 97%. If the olive oil is already strained and pure, you don't take off the 1.5% for the dregs at the bottom. If the barrels were old, you don't take off for the absorption because it's not going to absorb anything. They're already used barrels, and they absorb what they're going to absorb. Yehudah says, even someone who sells pure olive oil to his friend all year long, then the buyer has to take 1.5 lug of sediment dregs per 100. When I sell you 100, I only give you 98.5 because you're expecting it out of the original 100. Only 98.5 were oil. So when I'm selling you pure olive oil, I'm selling you 90. When I tell you I'm selling you 100, I'll only give you 98.5. So we change the value of 100. Now the Gemara says, coming at the beginning of the Mishnah says, the first minute says you take off a sixth. Rabb Yehudah says you take off a fifth. Below pligi, they're not arguing. There's no disagreement between them. Mark Yasre, this master going the custom in his place. Mark Yasre, this one in his place. Asre Demar, in the place of this one, Chapur Lakira, they smear the barrels with wax, which makes them less porous, so they don't absorb as much. Below my tzvei does not absorb so much. But Asre Demar, then place the other one, Chafar B'Kufar, in the place of Yehudah, they smear it with pitch. My tzvei, the pitch is drier, it absorbs more. Eboy Seymour, you could say Shimon Gargishta, because of the quality that they made the barrel from. Some land is drier, some land is more moist, and therefore Ha might say this one absorbs more, but Ha lo might say this one does not absorb as much, and therefore depending on the place they are, that's how much the barrel absorbs. Now we have a new discussion, not a continuation of this at all. Just now we're doing a little bit of math here, a little bit of financial calculation. Say to Rabb Yehudah, in the place of Rabb Yehudah, Ramu Arbaim Utmani Kuze Bedana. They put 40 cups basically in a barrel. So a barrel had 48 servings. Serving size of a barrel is 48. Also, Dana Bashir Zuzi. The unit price of a barrel is 6 zuz per barrel. Now do the math. 48 cups, 6 zuz per barrel. That tells you that each barrel you're paying 1/8 of a zuz per cup. Paz of Yehudah, she's a zuzah, and you include 8. You're getting 8 cups per every zuz. So Yehudah set up selling 6 per zuz. He set up a store selling 6 per zuz. So you get 6 cups per 1 zuz. He bought the whole barrel, about 48 for 6 zuz. Now he's selling it, one at a time. He's selling it for 1 zuz each, or 6 per zuz, 6 of a zuz, and ma each. Now you're trying to calculate. So what's his profit margin? Dal talsam b'shisa. So you have 36. By the time you sell 36 cups, that covers your initial expense. So your initial expense was 6 zuz, and those 36 is one. By the time you sold 36 at a 6th each, it gives you get back to 6. And that's your break-even point. And what do you have left? Partial tracer. You have 12 left. 12. However, dal tamani shisisai. Take off 8 because that's a 6th of the original total. Because he said before, you take off a 6th for the dregs, and you take off a 6th for the absorption. And so you take off half of that half of that. Right? Yeah, just for absorption. We're talking about wine here. So take off a 6th for absorption. So that's 8. Pashlu arba, that means his profit is 4 out of 48, which is a profit of 1/12. Bruchim Abayim.
Sorry?
Bruchim Abayim.
Welcome back. Thank you. Hey, surprise.
Now the one says, "V'amar Shmuel." Shmuel says, "I'm a staker ali staker yoser al shus." If you're making profit on commodities, on staples, you're not allowed to take a profit of more than a 6th. And here he's taking half that. Why is he taking so little profit? He should charge more so he can make a profit up to a 6th of normal business practice. Why doesn't he take a higher profit? To ika golfi shamraya. He also, besides the fact that he's getting this, that he's making 1/12 profit, he also gets to keep the barrel and the sediment. So the fact is that there's a little bit, he gets a fringe benefit. That the fact he keeps the barrel and the sediments, that's enough to take it up that he's getting profiting a 6th. In fact, it's above and beyond. It's more than a 6th. Yahaki, if so, nafish leitzvei, he's making too much profit. Mishtas, more than a 6th. So you have his effort. He's allowed to take payment for his effort. Maybe barzanaisa and the value of the barzanaisa. The one opinion says barzanaisa means he has someone sitting in the store supervising things. One opinion is it's you have to, when you get a barrel is sealed. You have to put in a spout. To pay someone to put in the spout, you factor in that cost, the cost of his effort, and the cost of putting in the spout. Profit margin is down to a 6th. Now the Mishnah said, "Im hayashem mezukak." If the oil was pure, he does not take anything off. And we're asked, hold on, it's impossible that the barrel is not going to absorb anything. Talking about when they're covered, when the barrels have some kind of covering the inside. Therefore, since they're old, they've absorbed what they're going to absorb, and they're not getting any more. Abai says even once they're not covered, came into time. Once it's been loaded up, it's not going. It doesn't keep absorbing forever. Just absorbs what it can, and that's it. Okay, a couple more minutes. Yehudah Omer Af Mocha Shemen Mezuka Lachavero Kol Yemos Lashana Harez Mekabel Alav Lugo Mex Shemaim Lameya. Even someone who says pure avod to his friend all year long, then you accept on yourself. When I tell you it's pure, you're going to get a 1.5 less out of 100. If I'm selling you 100, you only get 98.5. And I have to say, why? What's the argument about? Rabbis say you give a full 100, and Rabb Yehudah says you give 98.5. You're selling 100, you only actually give 98.5. Yehudah Omer, sorry, I'm going back. So Omer Abai says, Shtim Salomar, when you find to say the different Rabb Yehudah, Koner Rabb Yehudah, Mutal Shvaim, you're allowed to mix in the sediment back. Different Hachamim, according to the rabbis, Asal Shvaim, you're not allowed to mix the sediment back. Now, how does that explain what's going on? Let's see a little further. Different Rabb Yehudah, Koner Rabb Yehudah, Mutal Shvaim, you're allowed to mix in the sediment. Behind no time, this is the reason, Makabel, that you have to accept 1.5 less. When I'm giving you pure, you accept 1.5 less. Why? Damarle says to him, if I wanted to mix it up, then I would mix it up for you. Mila Arvi, wouldn't I mix it up and force you to take 100 of lower quality? I'm giving you 98.5 of good quality. If I wanted to, I could have given you 100 of poorer quality. Therefore, take the 98.5 and you should be happy that you're getting pure. Hashanami Kabul, you should accept yourself now 9.5. The Malay said, hold on, if you'd mixed it in, I could have sold it as a joint product. Hashta, what am I going to do with what am I going to do with these dregs? He's telling me 9.5 pure and 1.5 of dregs. The dregs are useless to me. You can't sell dregs plain. Where it says, no, but we're talking about an end consumer. The person he sold to was a consumer, the nichale betzila, that he'd rather have the clear olive oil, meaning he'd rather take 90.5 of pure oil than take 100 of oil with dregs in it. Therefore, the fact that you didn't mix it in, he's allowed to. You only have to give 9.5. You're still doing him a favor by not mixing it in. Still benefiting. He'd rather have 98.5 of pure than 100 of not so pure. Therefore, you haven't treated him at all. My answer is bias is right. No, I said that. But lay, he's saying to me the low arvisly. For the fact you didn't mix it in for me, you gave up. You surrendered that chance. I mean, you had a chance to mix it in. You didn't do it, so he says that you're giving up that right to mix it in. There's mechila here. You forgave that amount, so I should be able to get a full 100. I'm buying the oil. Give me 100 of good quality oil. Rabb Yehudah follows his own logic. The less he holds that people don't forgive in business. Tanaka says in the Mishnah, I sell you a yoke. I did not mean I sold you the cows that fit in the yoke. Even though it's very common to stand together, just because I sold you a yoke, that's what I specify. The assumption is I can just deliver a yoke. Rabbi Yehudah Omer Adam Rodiim, the value proves it. How does that work? Amar lo, he said to him, tell me your yoke for 200 zuz. So if you do it, the man is clearly known, you would never buy just a plain yoke for 200 zuz. Therefore, it must mean he's trying to buy the animal with it. So Rabbi Yehudah says, either the fact he didn't specify, the rabbis say, the fact he didn't specify means he forgave that extra amount. He just wants to take the yoke. He's forgiving the extra amount. He's paying way too much. He says, no, he doesn't forgive the extra amount. Once he's intending on getting it, therefore you can't say that he forgave it by not adding in the shmarim, but not adding the sediment. Can't say that he forgave the right to put in sediment. Therefore, he only gives 90.5 and doesn't give him the sediment separately. The rabbis hold that no, the amount of money is not a proof, because they hold forgiveness. Where it says, according to the rabbis, that was all explained to Yehudah. Rabbis asla shemarim. The rabbis, you're not allowed to mix it in. V'haina time is lo makabel. This is why you have to give a full 100. He says, if you wanted to mix in, you couldn't have mixed in. And therefore, since you couldn't have mixed it in, you had to give me 100 of good. So give me a full 100. Don't take off 1.5 for sediment. So give me the full 100, because you had no right to mix it in. So you agreed to something, 100, give me 100. And I think that's a good stopping place. Papa is going to say, no, it's backwards. We got the two opinions backwards. Our logic is flawed. We'll have to pick up tomorrow. So we're sort of in the middle of something. Hopefully you remember the first half. Because tomorrow Abai is going to come and say, Rav Papa is going to come and say to Abai, got everything backwards. But Ray should be back tomorrow as far as